All right, today we are putting on our detective hats and jumping in a time machine. And I don't mean a few decades or even a few centuries. We're going back 500 million years into Earth's deep past. We're on the trail of a geological cold case, the birth of an ancient ocean. And just like any great mystery, the clues are all there. You just have to know how to read them. Okay, let's get into it. So that's the real question, isn't it? The scene of the crime is 500 million years old. I mean, think about it. Continents have drifted apart, mountains have come and gone, entire oceans have opened and closed. So how on earth can scientists piece together what happened way back then? There are no witnesses, no records, because this story isn't written in books. It's written in stone. And the rocks we're zeroing in on today, they're found in modern-day northwest Spain. Geologists call them the Iberian Allophonous complexes. Now, that's a mouthful, but it just means they're huge chunks of the Earth's crust that have been shoved a long, long way from where they originally formed. So you can think of them as a crime scene that's been moved, which makes our job as detectives even trickier. So let's set the scene. It's the late Cambrian, about 510 million years ago. We're standing on the northern edge of this ginormous supercontinent called Gondwana. And this place was not a quiet, sandy beach. Oh no, this was a tectonically active zone, a magmatic arc, basically a massive chain of volcanoes and magma chambers where incredible geological forces were constantly reshaping the planet. This is our ground zero. Every good investigation has that one key piece of evidence, right? The smoking gun. For us, it's a body of rock called the Aj Silva granodiorite. Now, all that means is it's a type of rock that formed from molten magma that cooled down really slowly deep inside the Earth. And this specific slab of cooled down magma, well, it holds the entire timeline for our story. So what exactly was going down at this ancient continental edge? Well, the story starts with a massive tectonic squeeze. I want you to picture two tectonic plates just grinding into each other. The crust starts to buckle and fold, and it gets incredibly thick and dense from all that pressure. But this was just Act 1. Okay, so let's walk through that sequence of events. First, you have that intense compression. That's the crustal thickening. But then, the forces completely change direction. The continent starts pulling apart in what we call an extensional event. As that pressure lets up, the super hot rock way down in the lower crust begins to melt. And all that molten rock, that magma, has to go somewhere, right? So it starts injecting itself into the weak, stretching crust above it. And the scale of these forces is just mind-boggling. The initial squeeze hit 10 kilobars. To put that in perspective, that's like having a 35-kilometer thick column of solid rock sitting on top of you. But then, as the continent started stretching, the pressure just plummeted down to around 4 kilobars. It's that massive drop, that kind of geological sigh of relief, that allowed the deep crust to melt and set the stage for everything that came next. And here is where the plot absolutely thickens. Because for years, geologists had the timeline of these events all wrong. But a fresh look at our key piece of evidence, that A. Silva granodiorite, using some pretty amazing new technology, was about to completely flip the script. You see, for the longest time, everyone thought the A. Silva granodiorite was way younger, that it formed during a much later mountain building event. And this created a huge puzzle. If it was younger, how could it possibly be related to what was happening on the Gondwanan margin? The timing was off. The evidence just didn't add up. The tool that finally cracked the case is called zircon dating. And zircon crystals are amazing. When they form in cooling magma, they lock in tiny amounts of uranium. And that uranium decays into lead at a perfectly steady known rate. So by measuring the ratio of uranium to lead in these tiny little time capsules, scientists can date rocks with incredible precision. It's a geological clock. So what did the clock say? The A. Silva granodiorite wasn't young at all. Its true age was 510 million years. And this wasn't just a small correction. This was a complete rewrite of the geologic history of this whole region. It was a massive breakthrough. This was the key that unlocked the whole mystery. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. This new, older date proved the magma wasn't from some later, unrelated event. No, it was happening right in the thick of it, during the continental stretching, as a direct result of the crust being pulled apart. Our suspect was now placed squarely at the scene of the crime, at the exact time of the crime. But hold on, the story doesn't stop there. After this magma pushed its way in and started to cool, the tectonic drama kept going.
The whole region got hit with these immense shearing forces, which basically broke up all these rock layers and stacked them on top of each other like a giant, messy pile of pancakes.
So how do you build something this massive? Well, it happens in stages. First, you get the A silvagranodiorite and other magmas injecting as big, flat sheets. Then, these incredible shearing forces, kind of like pushing a deck of cards from the side, slice those cooling sheets into pieces. Those broken pieces then get shoved and stacked one on top of the other, and finally, the whole pile gets buckled and folded upwards into this huge arch, creating what geologists call an antiformal stack.
And when I say huge, I mean it. This thing was colossal. When all was said and done, this stack of broken and folded rock was nearly 8 kilometers thick. To put that into perspective for you, that is almost as thick as Mount Everest is tall. We're talking about a geological pileup on an absolutely epic scale. Now, as you can imagine, when you pile 8 kilometers of rock on top of something, you create some serious heat and pressure at the bottom. This stacking process actually triggered its own new metamorphic event between 495 and 480 million years ago. It literally pressure-cooked the rocks at the base of the stack. It was a direct consequence of this massive pileup. Okay, so we've looked at all the clues. We have the squeeze, the stretch, the magma getting injected, and this massive tectonic pileup. Now it's time to put it all together and solve the case. What was this incredibly violent, complicated chain of events actually leading to? So what's the final verdict? Well, all these clues. They all point to one single conclusion. These were the birth pangs of a new ocean. This was the geological signature of a supercontinent literally in the process of rifting, of tearing itself in two. This wasn't just random chaos. It was the systematic, step-by-step process of a continental breakup. So here's the recipe that the rocks of northwest Spain have given us. You start with a continental margin, and you put it under a ton of pressure. Then, you reverse those forces and start an intense period of stretching and thinning. This triggers huge magma intrusions that act like a wedge, weakening that already thin crust even more. And eventually, pop. The continent gives way, and a new ocean basin is born. And this ancient ocean, it has a name. The Rheic Ocean. It was a vast ocean that once separated the supercontinent Gondwana from a bunch of smaller continents to the north. And the clues we found in the silvagranodiorite, that's basically the geological birth certificate for this long-lost world. And that brings us right back to where we started. The Earth is a history book. Every single rock layer, every crystal, every fault line is a page in its story. The tale of the Rheic Ocean is just one chapter, figured out by these tectonic detectives. And it really makes you wonder, what other incredible stories of lost continents in ancient oceans are still out there just waiting for us to figure out how to read them?